Oyun Botanical Gardens.
Yes.
Woo.
Oyun Botanical Gardens. Well, the Almighty is working through me. So,
right.
I don't have no choice. Yeah, I don't have no choice.
And I love the way you always bring that. I was listening to, I guess it was about a month ago, when you had your father.
Yes.
That was a beautiful
exchange.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have him back in the studio. Yeah, that's always a vibe.
Yeah. So, like father, like daughter.
Yeah.
Like in the ministry.
In the ministry, serving the people. Yeah.
So let's take it back a little bit. You know how I always do it on my program. We always like to make sure that everyone knows who you are.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, this being international city, right? Because people coming in and out of Atlanta.
This is true.
So we don't want to be remiss about having those who never even probably heard of Yenn, and then at the same time, those who have, we want to reintroduce. Because they're going to know that there's something they didn't get before.
I appreciate that.
So let's start off as I always like to do in terms of your name.
Okay, well, most people call me Queen Yenn. My full name is Yenninga Adania. But most people call me Yenn or Queen Yenn. And I'm born and raised ATL,
That's what I was impressed about when I first started.
Right.
I said, what?
Born and raised. Yes, born and raised. I grew up in Decatur, where it's greater. But, spent a lot of my time in Decatur, but then went to school in Atlanta, including high school and college, Georgia State University, for undergrad and grad. So I'm ATL,
Yeah, that's right.
So, yes, I walk this land currently as what many may consider to be a minister, a healer, a counselor, entrepreneur, a mama, a sister, a person who can help you get your life together, whatever that looks like, a person who help you to understand what it means to be a spiritual being, having a spiritual experience. So it's a wide range of things. We would link up together here in studio talking about the moon. So that's still there. Of course the moon is still there. So that's still happening, So and now
let's take us back to
he taking it
tell
back.
us your name.
Okay.
What it means. A lot of people hear.
I figured that's what you asked.
Yeah.
Well, so whenever someone asks me that, I have to tell them the story. So I'm gonna give a brief. My mama named me Crystal, so I call myself Glorious Crystal. All right, my mama named Glorious
so you
Crystal.
Had to add that to it.
Glorious Crystal. Okay, and she named me Crystal because one of her favorite things was crystal vessels. And she said when she got pregnant, she said, this is going to be my crystal in human form.
And guess what you do?
Come on now. Divine, right? So I work with crystals and I teach people. So I say, look at this, So when I, released my name and was really adamant about call me my name, when I tell the story that once I started working on my chakras and my heart chakra opened, I realized I need to go back to my parents and ask them for forgiveness for throwing their name away, And then she told me that story and I was like, you don't have to call me Yenninga. She was like, no, I'm going to call you. We crying. She's like, I'm going to call you Yenninga. I'm going to call it. I said, no, mama, I'm going to take your name. But anyway. So,
honest to her too.
Give thanks. Absolutely. Rest in power, Gloria Goodwin. Gloria Taylor. Gloria Jean Taylor. We used to call her Hurricane Jean.
Is that right?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I wonder why. Right?
Yeah, you can guess. Hurricane Jean. But
as Dr. Asa Hilliard would say, I used to play it all the time. I got to rebring that. He said we must always
call their names, full names. Gloria Jean Taylor, eventually Goodwin. So but on my journey, I decided I desired an African name. I asked Mama Marimba at the time. I was studying with Mama Marimba. Yes, okay. Mama Marimba Ani. So a lot of people don't know this part of the story. I was studying and walking with Mama Marimba Ani. And I said, can you help me, acquire a name? Like, I don't want to go to nobody else. And so maybe 2 years later, she called me and she said, Yenninga. When I answered the phone, she said, Yenninga. I said, is that my name? And she goes, Look it up. I want you to look up the history of it. So when I looked up the history of it, she is a warrior princess of Ghana, a Ghanaian warrior princess. And the story goes that she was her father's greatest warrior. And her father didn't want to let her go. Right. The father was like, you got to stay. You my greatest warrior. And she rebelled, allowed all of the land to go barren just to represent what she felt like. And then she ran off, ended up marrying, having a child. But then she came back and there was a reunion with her father, open arms, So that's the part of it. And it's very resonant, the story of my father, because my father's a minister. So when I went on my moon meditating journey, it was like, where you going? Wait a minute. You are a soldier for the Lord, And so it really came full circle just like that, but but he's on my website, really saying how he realized that my ministry represents a bridge, there was he said that in his words, he says there has been a breach and Oyun Ministries represent a bridge that help us to connect. And that's so interesting that he says that because
that breach.
Because he says, my Oyun Ministries teaches the Bible metaphysically. Yeah. I teach metaphysics. Right. That's right. And I end up teaching period. And I end up teaching the Bible metaphysically because most of the Southern folks are Christian. That's right. So, I've learned, I know Quran, I know Urdu, I know a lot, but the people that I serve are Christian, so I teach metaphysical Bible. And so the ministry helps people to understand how to really read the word and get the real word out of it, and not just what you maybe misread or misunderstood or was just blatantly miseducated about the word. And so
there's only one truth.
That's it. That's it. That's all. And so so it's a beautiful full circle. So Yeninga means it's the name of a Ghanaian warrior princess. Adanya means father's daughter. And eventually I realized that father's daughter meant father's daughter, the Almighty's daughter. And I walk like that, And I walk like that.
And you do.
Yeah.
You walk well, my sister. Now bring us up to speed about Oyun Botanical Gardens. This is now, how many years now?
I got there on the property in 2020. I purchased the property last year in May. So I closed last year. Thank you. What a buttons.
When I saw you announce that, I was just so proud.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Give all thanks to the Almighty. All thanks to the Almighty. I mean, the story is so, Oyun Ministries was predominantly an online ministry. It really expanded during the pandemic. So I had,
a lot of people down, but it was a blessing.
Blessing, silver lining. I'm telling you, I walked that silver line. Really, even now with the one who's bringing down Babylon, I'm walking that silver line with that. So anyway, I won't get political. So, I have members all around the world. I have members in UK. I have members in Japan. I have some in Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. All through the states, Texas, North Carolina. Yes, it's a global ministry. Yes, it's a global ministry. And it's a ministry of Christ consciousness. It's helping people to really understand metaphysics in general, not just the Bible, but metaphysics in general. And that also includes understanding the body, as a temple. And so I'm always referencing nature when I'm talking about God, because I say that God is nature is the perfect representation of the reality of God in so many different forms. Like, you can see it in nature. If you don't believe it, just go sit outside for a little while and then take up that phone that you keep Googling everything else and Google and learn about the ladybugs and see what they do, and see how amazing God is, And so I've always used reference of the garden, but in 2020, I got an opportunity for Oyun Ministries headquarters to be a garden.
Come on now.
And that happened because I worked for True to Living Well for about 4 years. Right. And when they downsized to their Lawton Street location, the then ED called me and said, "Hey, are you looking for an indoor space to do your work?" At the time, I was in a little room, probably as big as this room here in the station, doing my work, which was selling gemstones, selling spiritual baths, doing counseling, teaching, energy clearance, all that good stuff. And I said, well, I don't know. How much is it? And she told me how much it was, and it was the same exact price of the room I was in. What? And that's what I said. That's what I said. I said, what? You know, of course my answer is yes, you know. So that took me there. That brought me there. And then there's a story to what has kept me there. You know, and that was spring equinox of 2021. I did a retreat with my members, who some of them come in town, fly in town, but my Atlanta members for the most part. We did a retreat, and at each one of the retreats, it always closes with a collective reading. And so I did a collective reading, and one of the things that came out of that reading is the divine assignment to build for eternity. And so that was for everybody. And so for me, that meant, okay, Oyun Ministries need a headquarters for eternity. But at the time, the property was owned by a family, the Williams family. I call her by her name, Mama Melinda Williams. She is the one who graced the place to Baba Rashid Nuri. And she said, I want this to stay a green space. Well, her son, he became the estate owner after she transitioned in 2017. Well, he got to the point where he was ready to sell. And I would have never even thought that, because when I heard the message from the reading, I said, well, maybe I got to go look for a space, because no way am I going to go to him like a gentrification, you know, obsessed woman. Like, so can you come off your property? You know, I'm not going to do that. So I was like, hi. But Spirit said, call them and see, have they ever thought of selling? It took me 3 days to obey. But when I did, he said, that's funny. We were just talking about selling the property. And so he said, he said, we would love for you to have the property. I introduced him to the ministry holistically. He didn't really know fully about Oyun Ministries. He just knew garden, you know, that kind of thing. And a lot of people don't know about. They know about Oyun Botanical Gardens because it's absolutely beautiful. It provides natural organic produce, and it provides all these amazing events. But they don't really know about Oyun Ministries and the history of Oyun Ministries. So I told them about it, and I said, look, I'm a church girl, and I have church memories. I remember and my church still stands in Decatur, Georgia. I remember the church. I remember the building. I remember the bathrooms. I remember Vacation Bible School. I remember all of that. And that's what I desire for the people of Oyun Ministries here in Atlanta, for their children to remember a garden in their memory. Right. You know, the mamas and babas and aunties and butterflies and, you know, 80-year-olds who look like they 50 and 100-year-olds who look like I love to see it. They come through the garden all the time. Shout out to all the elders who represent taking care of themselves and shining the light of God. But so anyway, I told him about it. He said, I'm going to give you a chance to purchase it. And I'm like, looking at my bank account like, oh, okay then. Like, all right, God, you said I'm supposed to do it, so tell me what to do. And so I just followed hunches for a whole year. Got in alignment with some investors out of New York. We had a closing date. They pulled out on me in 2 days before the closing date. They pulled out on me. Devastated. I was devastated because I had poured like $50,000, $60,000 into rejuvenating the property. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just like, you know, just holding on to faith, giving thanks for community that puts positive words in your head, you know. And I tell people, don't be talking to people who can't align with your dream, because they will curse you. They will curse you. So don't talk to people. So I'm giving thanks that I had a small circle of people around me who was like, okay, that mean they weren't meant to do it. So it's going to work out. You know, they like, it's yours. Just ride that thing on out until you get kicked out. You ain't getting kicked out, you know. So I was okay. I was at least staying grounded, still just, you know, going through it and learning a lot while I was going through. I had to go through it. The Most High had to really crush my ego real good to make sure I knew what this was. You know what I mean? So I'm really grateful. So it ain't you. You know, it ain't your credit score. It ain't your money. It ain't none of that. It ain't none of that. Cause, at all. Zero. So it went all the way down to zero. And at zero, a sister in the Economic Development Department called me. In East Point. I did a presentation with them months prior and telling them what I had plans to do. This is going to be a botanical garden. You know, it's going to be great for East Point. I had presented this to like 6 people in the city. She called me because she saw the for sale sign, which is the biggest for sale sign I ever seen in my life, in the front of the building. It's just for sale, 888 sale now. You know, it was like wild. It still has the holes in the ground from the beams. It's so crazy. It was so huge. And so she called. She said, I saw the for sale sign. what's going on? And I just started crying. I said, well, I had it all worked out, And so she said, oh, no, this cannot happen. Oh, my God. Let me make some calls. She made some calls. And then the next day she called me. She said, the owner of Oyun Garden said she will talk to you about what's going on. She's not prepared to do it as a philanthropic thing, but maybe an investor. So she came to me. We talked. I think still now, I hope she hears this interview and maybe she's listening. Who knows? I think she's still scratching. She's still scratching her head on what in the world am I doing? Cutting a check for this amount of money for a lady I don't know. Right. She done got turned down by investors, so that means something going on. Why did they turn her? She didn't even have time to ask no questions. I looked her square in the face and said, "Listen, I done been at this for a whole year. It's either yes or no at this point. I didn't have no energy. I ain't have no time. I didn't have nothing for her. I'm like She didn't even know my legal name when she wrote the check. It's like, it was just like that. And she just, she said, okay. Yeah, she said, okay. And that spirit. And I knew I was working in spirit. And see, her mother is the owner of Oyun Garden. Her mother established Oyun Garden. Yes. And her mother is the ancestor, so I knew Mama Melinda, who wanted that property to be green space, and I knew Mama Arden, the sister who owns the space, or the woman who owns the space now, her mother, was all over this. So I even petitioned them. I said, okay, mamas, help her to go ahead and say yes now, and I was talking to the son's mama too, the owner's mama too, because they was getting antsy. They were like, we can't give you no more time. And so she cut the check. And by the grace of God, I had already raised about $20,000 on my efforts. Within 3 weeks, I had raised like $20,000 just because I was letting people know, hey, they pulled out on me. I don't know what, and they just was giving. Mm-hmm. And she cut the check. She gave me a better deal than investors out of New York. What came with that was publicity and all type of other things, all the things that I had been asking for. And I was like, okay, God, I see. Okay, this ain't me. This ain't my vision. This your vision that's manifesting through me. So I'm going to always have faith that everything is always working out for the sake of your vision. And so within a year, she gave me 2 years to buy it back. Within a year, I was able to get a USDA farm loan and close on it. Yeah, and close on that shit. So that's the story. That's the short version. Give thanks. That's an amazing story. Give thanks. Yeah, that's the short version, because of course it was so many lessons. It was so many blessings. It was so many things I was able to see. So much crucifixion, so much resurrection in the whole time. So, and ever since then, it's been a blessing. I had the blessing of partnering with Ross Kofi, the farmer, when I was there in 2020. Right. So the blessing just rolled over with him staying the land steward now. So that's a beautiful partnership. Oyun with on the farm, and then I partner with a lot of practitioners. So right now, what Oyun Botanical Gardens is, it's a garden. It is a botanical garden. I just got a grant for an orchard. 30 fruit trees and bushes was installed on February the 22nd, 222. Absolutely. And that was sponsored. I didn't have to pay a dime for that. Not only did I get the fruit trees, but they came and planted it, and they gave me deer protection, and they maintained it. Blessings on blessings on blessings. It ain't mine. You know what I mean? And then, I was blessed with a well just a couple of months ago. What? So we have a well, hoop houses, irrigation system by the grace of God through NRCS. I have the space where people can I have yoga on Wednesdays, Pilates on Sundays. A sister does that. A brother was doing Tai Chi there. A sister doing a sewing class there. Chef B, shout out to Chef B. She's doing plant-based cooking classes there. Right. It's just so much that continuously happen. Of course, I do my sound baths. It's a beautiful experience every 2 weeks. And just so much goes on. And, of course, the store is there, the wellness store. And we have the natural, organic, chemical-free, locally grown, freshly harvested produce. That will heal your whole soul, And I'm a Reiki practitioner, so every day I walk out there and I shoot Reiki out to the plants. And I'm just like, may they grow all the medicine that our people need. May it be able to nourish their bodies, it's praying hands out there. And the farmer right now, Habiba, her birthday was just this week. Her Earth Day was was just this week. She's a spiritual sister, you know, and so that's a blessing too, because not only do you know where your food comes from, but you know the people. That's why I tell people support local farmers, not just to support them. Oh, support them because they really need your help. No, like you're gonna get healed by eating from the land. You know, you get produce from the store that's miles away. You get produce from your local farmers. That's minutes. You going and we picked it, and it's minutes going to your table. That's lavish. That's luxury. That is blessings, bliss. That's Garden of Eden type vibes. You know.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I said you reproduce.
Absolutely.
Right there.
That's funny because when I was first journaling about this place, before I knew I was going to get it, after that reading, I was just kind of journaling and scripting. Garden of Eden came up in my frequency. Then I looked the metaphysical meaning of it. And I was like, wow, that's what this is? Okay, God. All right.
Well, I tell you, I wish we could go on.
I know.
We got to bring you on through Night Watch Expression.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm back out in these streets.
Tell people how they can find out more, because you rattle off so much.
I know.
Right? And I know. They couldn't keep up with you. So,
I know.
Do that and tell us about this market that is opening
up. It's coming up. Okay. So Oyun Botanical, that's Oyun. Oyun. My son say like, Oyun, no, but Oyun. Oyun. And by the way, Oyun means ready to be born. It's a Yoruba word that means pregnant or ready to be born. And that was given to me. That name was given to me through spirit. It's a representation of what everybody is like when they are gravitating to Oyun. It's usually they're ready to be born into the new version of themselves, climbing Jacob's ladder, whatever the vibe is. But nonetheless, it's oyunbotanical.com and Oyun Botanical Gardens with an S. On all social media platforms, on Google, Oyun, Oyun, Botanical Gardens. You can find that located at 3353 Washington Road, East Point, Georgia. For those who know True Living well, it was the original headquarters up in East Point. That's the same property that has been in the community for over 20 years as a garden, giving thanks for the baton being handed over for me to be the divine steward of that land now. Shouting out to all the farmers who have touched that land. It's been many, though many know farmers in Atlanta. A lot of them started at this property. And so, yes, that's Oyun, Oyun, Botanical Gardens, and oyunbotanical.com. The farmers market. So we have market day every Saturday already, where we have the natural, organic, locally grown, freshly harvested produce available each week. But this season, we're bringing it back to what we used to do in 2020 when every weekend we had like a festival. We had, then do you remember that? Folks know that. That was when it was Shamba. It was when on the farm at Oyun came together and we created Shamba. And so we're bringing that back. So it's going to be same vibes, you know. Yeah, same vibes. So we'll have the produce that we grow, but also we have other farmers. That will be the addition. We'll have eggs, meat, produce, whatever it is that you need. The idea here that was channeled as I started to think, as this was brought to me, to bring it back, because it was a lot of work to do that. So I was like, I ain't doing that. No, I'm tired, you know. But Spirit was on me like, no, you're doing it. And it's starting this year. So it was like, you know, we freak out when we feel like the stores are going to close or there's a recall and all of that. That shouldn't be, you know, that should not be. So the idea here is to, when you come to this farmer's market, you don't have to feel like you have to go to the store at all. That's the vision. It's like you really don't have to go to the store. Not because I'm rallying against stores. Right?
Because the garden is the store.
The store where you can restore, you know, replenish and restore, you know. So it's not to rally against stores. We give thanks for conveniences. You know, I still go to the store for certain items, but we should never feel like we have to depend on anything but that which is within. And so, you know, depending on stores, depending on schools, all of that is being dismantled. So while you fussing, I'm telling you, be quiet, because what's happening is what need to happen. Because we've gotten way too lazy, way too comfortable, way too convenient, way too all of that, way too all of that. And it's shortening our lives, you know, and we're becoming less creative and less communicative and less communal communal and less all of that. So give thanks for what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Give thanks
for
what happened. And I say that loud and proud. Give thanks for what happened. And may you have peace in your heart and mind as the Lord's work is being done. But while the work's a part of that work being done is, something like a Oyun's fresh market. And so that's the farmer's market will have fresh produce, vendors, yoga or tai chi or whatever movement. I just call it movement in the garden, garden tour, meditation. So I'm getting back to doing my Saturday meditations. That was something very popular. And I'm like, okay, you about to put me back to work, Lord, oh, Lord. But going back to the meditation.
Got a plant in that garden.
Yes,
right?
yes. And it was, at that time, people loved it. It was just so much healing happening. Yeah. And so it's just going to be a good time every Saturday. I'm saying this is our new Saturday tradition. This is the Saturday sanctuary coming at Oyun Botanical Gardens.
When does that begin for Saturday?
April 19th. So it starts April 19th, which is next Saturday. Next Saturday, April 19th, the Ishtar is Easter weekend. Right. I said, I'm going to have an Easter egg hunt. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to have Easter egg hunt. Maybe one day. I don't know. It won't be the Easter egg hunt you used to. Right. Believe that. But, next Saturday, April 19th, the market is 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The main thing I want to highlight is, parking. We was by the grace of God, I was able to extend the parking lot. And so we do have additional parking, like 30 additional parking spaces. But I also have a partnership with apartments next door, as well as the school next door that has said absolutely yes, you can use our space to park. So for those who remember Shamba, you remember it was packed and it was made, yes. And, so I want to say that, listen, we have a very nice parking lot. It's additional parking, and we do have additional parking in the community, period. Don't be discouraged. You might have to walk, but you walk to Piedmont Park when you have the jazz festival. So, go ahead and park at the apartments or the school, wherever you need to do in order to come on down, nothing stretching the legs a little bit. And the good news, big news, boom, 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 boom. We now are able to accept SNAP benefits, EBT and SNAP benefits. So very excited about that. Yeah, right. Because I know a lot of elders and a lot of other communities are, utilizing those benefits, and we couldn't, they want it, but, they have those benefits. And so I'm so happy to be able to say that.
Beautiful.
And working on getting the double points, but we're working on that. We're still in the application process. But
we know you're going to get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just percolating right now, that's all.
So look, we're winding down.
Yes, sir.
And we want you to say, as we know, we must not depend on others for food. We can't depend on others to give our story.
Period.
On broadcasting. So please, give a word for our now
spring fund drive.
Fund.
Fund. That's it. I know, I always say, on my spiel, on my show, I always tell my story of how I came across 89.3 FM, and that my son, he was a young man, and, growing boy. So I didn't want him having, music is meditation. So I didn't want him having any music in his ears that was, toxic. And so I would have nothing on this. He would call my car the silent car. Mom, you got a silent car, and so then, and I came across 89.3 FM. And I started, and I'll never forget who was playing Rock. She was on the radio. I forget who segment I was tuned into. It was a late night maybe, or, a Saturday morning. And that's when 89.3 became the radio station on my dial. And then I started hearing the information. Then I started meeting people. And then I became, and then the story of might have been, yeah.
Big ups to Minister Server who's in the building. We'll be talking to him too. He's
I be tuned. Yeah.
Here at WRG.
Nice. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, like the music is amazing. I mean, and then the ones now, the young ones. I think it's some new young air shifters who doing some good work. So, we know that we are community supported. You know what I mean? And so, thank you to the community. You've already been supporting us for so long, and I know you're committed. So I'm just gonna say, I affirm that you are committed. Make this be the moment that you show that commitment. And give thanks, and may it all come back to you tenfold. I'm gonna speak that whatever you send in right now. Actually, if you got Cash App, what's the Cash App?
Cash App is WRFG 893.
Okay. $, WRFG 893. Do it right now, right now, right now, right now. If you want that tenfold blessing, go ahead and do it right now. Whatever you give, it'll come back to you tenfold. I speak that, and my words are powerful. I ain't saying that with a pat on my back. I'm saying that because remember the story. I went to 0. Remember that now. There was some crucifixion and resurrection. So I'm speaking that with a resurrected heart and soul. May it come back to you tenfold. And we give thanks for 89.3 FM. Yeah, we give thanks.
Thank you so much. Y'all get it, OyunBotanical.com and also Oyun Botanical Gardens on all social media,
even TikTok.
Much love.
Give thanks.
Because and we got to cover the educational part.
Yes, because we have
show.
Oh, yeah.
And the big up Nana before.
Right. He was the inspiration of my show, So my show is The Bridge, talk radio for parents, teachers, and students, right here on 89.3 FM, WRFG, Thursdays at 7 o'clock p.m.
Later on,
in a few hours. Yeah, I'm just going to hang out. I'm just going to hang out down here until it's time. But, the inspiration was through Nana before. He was one of my jegnas. I studied under him in grad school. And, one of his challenges, that's that giving and that commitment, huh?
That's right.
But one of his challenges to us was to always look at the children as a clear vessel. Don't ever look at their file. I remember going into the classroom. He told us to throw out the file because your babies are your babies. Get to know them face to face. Don't look at no file, getting to know him. And so I give thanks for Nana before, grooming us into radical teachers, Right. And now we're in a radical time of education. Like the school structures are being dismantled. And so I have a good time on the bridge because now we ain't talking about schooling. We're talking about education. What is that? And that is holistic. So you will find me talking about a wide range of things. Tonight we got someone coming in that's talking about daily routines and meditations. He has a book called I can't remember the book name, but an author. He has a new book, an inspirational book that's coming out. And last week we talked about neurodivergence and how to make sure we honor exceptionalities, not disabilities, and talked about the spiritual side of autism and all of those type of things. So it is a creative show that talks about education in the sense of what education truly is, and that is being educated about life. It's at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays, every Thursday.
So in a couple hours, family.
Yeah, stay tuned.
What time again?
At 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. About 3 more hours. I'll be back in.
All right, fam, we got a powerful show coming up with our dear sister, Reverend Kiana Jones.
Nice.
She's putting it out.
Oh, I know Kiana Jones.
Yeah, she's in the studio. There you go.
Yeah, she went to church with me. She went to church with me. That is interesting. I didn't even know she had a show. Wow. Look at her face. Look at her face. I didn't know we were fellow air shifters. What? Amazing. We went to church together. That's funny. Look at this. Come on now.
There you go.
Round and round and round and round we go. Infinity sign. Thank you, Baba Akhenaten.
Much love.
For the interview.
We'll connect for the Night Watch expression.
Yes, it's done. The community witnessing it. It's done. Thank you.
I love you.
All right,
Keep
same. Right back to you. Thank
so
you.
Thank you.
I received that.
You can continue prospering.
I received that.
Underneath those staying gets.